We recognize that CVUUS gathers on the land of the Western Abenaki people that was seized by European colonists. We respect the Abenaki people's spiritual relationship to the land, and we hope to learn from them how we can live together in peace and justice. Good morning. Good morning. And welcome to CVUUS. The Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society welcomes you here no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what your background. You're welcome to join us in community as we learn, live, and love together. If this is your first time here, please sign the book in the lobby so that we can get to know you better. Each Sunday service is a little different. With our settled minister, the Reverend Barnaby Feeder in the pulpit, or sometimes, as next week, two lay leaders from our congregation or a guest UU minister. If anyone needs hearing assistance, we have some excellent devices that you can get in the back from Mary or Liam. This is a great time to put those cell phones into worship mode. My name is Becky Strum. I'm a member of this congregation and of the worship team. And this morning, I have the great pleasure of serving as worship associate for our guest minister, the Reverend Linda Susan Mulrich. And I realize that we have not had a guest UU minister, I don't think, since before the pandemic. I don't think. I mean, it seems like an awfully long time, and I always love to work with guest UU ministers. So the Reverend Linda Susan is a minister, writer, musician, and activist dedicated to a vision of radical inclusion, deep collaboration, and courageous kindness. They were called in 2020 as the settled minister of the Unitarian Society of New Haven, Connecticut, and identify as a non-binary bisexual person of color. A graduate of Starr King School for the Ministry and Hezekiah School of Spiritual Direction. Reverend Linda Susan previously served as assistant minister at the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor, Michigan. Yay. Go Blue. Each Sunday, there are many pathways in addition to Sunday services to make connections. You'll hear about them in our monthly newsletter, our weekly email blast, and listed in our order of service. I would first like to call Kate Gridley up, who is co-chair of our campus, to make a brief announcement, and then I'll hit the other pathways.
We are on fire.
Good morning. This will be so quick. Notice the colorful portion of the door. The flames are rising. They have a way to go, but they are happening. John and I are meeting with many of the leadership teams this month, and they are making pledges together, and then we give them cookies. It's great. This next week, the choir will pledge together as an ensemble. And the following week, the worship team will do that. The facilities team already has. The board already has. The, I call it the committee on committees, but the team of the Council of Ministries has also met with us. I want you all to get out your date books, and I want you to put on April Fool's Day, which is a Saturday, we are going to, after many, many years, have a party, a CVUUS potluck. We do this well for new members. It's going to be great. And I will be coming around with a cookboard to say, and what would you like to make? Or would you like to do the dishes? I've already had someone say, I'll do anything but clean up. So, as for everyone else, on March 1st, we are mailing out the official invitation to participate in the canvas. So if you think you haven't heard from us, you have not escaped.
Thank you, Kate. So other opportunities for connection, save the date, March 17th, 7 to 9 in the Fellowship Hall for our open mic night. You can sign up after the service downstairs in social hour. One other interesting pathway is the CVUUS Climate Engagement Project, which involves taking on a low-carbon diet. And if anybody else is interested in joining Laura on that, you can reach out to her at office at CVUUS. And now, Bob House, chair of our awesome, very awesome Facilities Committee, would like to share some thoughts now about the work of the Facilities Committee. And after the service, he will be downstairs, and it will be, I think, pretty obvious where he is if you want to come and learn more about what this amazing committee does. Bob?
First, for Kate's minister, the cookies were delicious. I am Bob House, speaking for the Facilities Committee. Our mission is to ensure short-term and long-term maintenance of the buildings and grounds of CVUUS in a manner which will support and contribute to spiritual growth of the congregants and staff, and which facilitates the Society's effort to promote social and environmental justice in our community and the world. The Facilities team is looking for more individuals to share our ministry, which we find both challenging and spiritually enriching. And in the words of Khalil Gibran in The Prophet, work is love made visible. We are proactive in maintaining our campus and responsive to other groups. We repair and paint walls. We replace light fixtures. Problem solve with various vendors on special issues. We are currently active in getting options and estimates for converting to heat pump technology for heating and cooling our sanctuary, and shoveling snow in special circumstances. To sum up, we try to make sure that our buildings and grounds are kept in conditions which will allow the congregation and outside groups to use them for fellowship, spiritual, and educational purposes year-round. Committee members will be downstairs during coffee hour to answer any questions and explore your concerns. We've even provided some of the goodies. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you so much. And thanks to all who helped make this service possible. Richard Hopkins, our gatherer, Mary Hadley, and I see Liam Batches as our video casters. Abby jumped in on the camera. Our choir, thank you, Bob. Everyone who stepped up to greet or usher or donate food or drink for social hour. And I would like to again point you in the direction of our incredible sculpture begun by Jess Daniel, and others have added to it. This is the last week for it, apparently. And also there is an incredible haiku in the order of service that Ravel take some time to come up and look at this lovely sculpture. And now, everyone, please rise and bow your spirit for our gathering song number 389 in the gray and also on the screen. Our call to worship this morning is by Denise Levertov. As swimmers dare to lie face to the sky, as hawks rest upon air, and air sustains them, so I learned to attain free fall and float into Creator's Spirit's deep embrace, knowing no effort earns that all-surrounding grace. As I light our chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism, Reverend Linda Susan will read her original chalice lighting.
All around us, wonder awaits. The luminous blue sky just after nightfall. Experimental shrieks from a toddler discovering her voice. A Honeycrisp apple snapping with each bite. Even ordinary gravity is fundamentally mysterious. Within us, a spark awaits. An urge to learn more. Seedlings of sorrow, anger, joy, fear. The life force that keeps our hearts beating and neurons firing even as we sleep. Among us, the flame awaits. The warmth of cocoa and friendship. Injustice revealed by the glaring light of truth. An unexpected welcome through an unlocked door, even after a lifetime of isolation. Beyond us, something deeper awaits. Meaning-making in the midst of grief. The courage to open up wounds that they may heal. A love that will not let us go, even when we try to outrun it. May the spark that sets this chalice aflame bring us to a deeper place of wonder as we enter this sacred time together.
Thank you. Now is the time in the service for our offering. Each month we share our plate with an organization or nonprofit that shares our values. This month we are splitting the offering with Razom of Ukraine, a highly regarded umbrella aid group founded in 2014 by Ukrainian immigrants and exiles in New York City. And I believe we're going to see a short video on Razom, and after that, please be as generous as you are able.
We are Razom for Ukraine. Razom, which means together in Ukrainian, is a non-profit organization that is now made up of 60,000 donors and dedicated volunteers. Our team comes from all walks of life. We're passionate professionals from various industries including tech, finance, marketing, medicine, arts, academia, and law, with substantial experience across NGOs and charitable foundations. We've united our forces for one simple mission: to build a more prosperous Ukraine. But right now, we're most focused on saving lives and stopping the war. What started as a volunteer-driven organization created after Ukraine's Revolution of Dignity in 2014 is now a verified 501c3 with a donation pipeline upwards of $20 million. Following the Russian attack since February 24, our global community has become more united than ever.
My name is Luba. My friends, family, and colleagues are fighting at the front line with Russian invaders, and my duty is to provide them with protective equipment, medical supplies, advocate for Ukraine at the international arena. This is what everyone at Razom does today, and I believe that all together we could protect Ukrainian independence and send Russians back home. Slava Ukraini!
Razom quickly mobilized an emergency response fund to save lives. To this day, we have safely delivered close to 200 pallets of technical medical equipment and critical medical supplies to Ukraine, with much more on the way. Our team is also working on evacuating children with special needs, as well as their families, to safety. Our advocacy team has worked on getting Capitol Hill to legislate for investments in Ukraine, hold leaders and companies accountable for enabling the Russian war machine, and urge them to help displaced Ukrainians in the US and refugees abroad. We, Razomci, amplify the strong voices of the Ukrainian people so that Ukraine and Ukrainians can be known around the world. Together, we will build a more prosperous Ukraine. To find out more about our work and support us through donations, please visit razomforukraine.org.
It has been a week of living, a week of happiness and sadness, joys and concerns, milestones and passages. I have 2 yellow cards. I guess there are no others. For anyone who is new, we have these yellow cards that you can pick up as you come in, and if you have a milestone or passage that you'd like to share, you can write it down and it will be read at the pulpit. So from Neil and Julie Chippendale, our thoughts are with our friends and CVUUS members, Helen and Larry Vanderberg, who are suffering from COVID and perhaps watching on Zoom. So any of us who have had COVID, we hold Larry, we hold them in our hearts. And then Paul Stone reminds us that the 1-year anniversary of the Ukrainian war is upon us. We had a Ukrainian flag in the lobby for a while. Paul, I think, has brought it up again and was wondering if it might be displayed once again, honoring those fighting for their freedom. Thank you, Paul.
I invite you into a spirit of meditation, prayer, or contemplation of ultimate things. So often we're tethered to what weighs us down. Our hearts and troubles connected by a cord, and all of it subject to gravity. In this moment, I invite you to turn your attention inward and just notice what might be weighing you down. If you're willing, imagine softening your heart in a way that lets the cord slip out. Don't worry, you can pick everything up again if you wish. But for a moment, see what it's like to breathe without that downward pull. As we enter a time of silence, keep breathing and releasing what weighs on your heart.
An excerpt from Life, the Universe, and Everything by Douglas Adams. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy has this to say on the subject of flying. There is an art, it says, or rather a knack to flying. The knack lies in learning how to throw yourself on the ground and miss. In a nice day, it suggests, and try it. The first part is easy. All it requires is simply the ability to throw yourself forward with all your weight and the willingness not to mind that it's going to hurt. That is, it's going to hurt if you fail to miss the ground. Most people fail to miss the ground, and if they're really trying properly, the likelihood is that they will fail to miss it fairly hard. Clearly, it is the second part, the missing, which presents the difficulties. And a second reading, Surrender Like a Duck, by Mark Nepo. Beneath what I try to see is all I need. It was years ago, but I remember it clearly. I was walking along the shore of a lake in the middle of the day, and there in the sun, a good 10 yards out, was a duck, curled into itself, asleep, with its slick tufted head tucked into its body. It bobbed peacefully in the lapping of the water. This little scene undid me, for here was an ultimate lesson in trust. Without any intent or knowledge of itself, this little duck, asleep in the womb of the world, was a deep and wordless teacher. If only if only we, could surrender this completely to the mystery of life, we would be carried and renewed. It was obvious that the duck would wake and swim its little patterns on the water, but this little creature's ability to let go so completely allowed its time on earth to be filled and saturated, if just for a few minutes, with a depth of peace that only surrender can open us to. Only rarely have I let go this completely, yet those moments of total surrender have thoroughly changed my life. When struck with cancer, I somehow fell from the ledge of my fear and entered the operating room like this little duck. It was the threshold to the other side. When lonely and afraid to reach out, I have somehow collapsed repeatedly into the ocean of another's love. And it has cleansed my weary heart. And in my search now for wisdom to live by, I stumble at times and surrender what I think I know so completely that I find myself adrift in a deeper way that is neither wise nor unwise, but simply life-affirming.
Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to go skydiving. Now, I understand that the idea of jumping out of a plane while it's flying at 10,000 feet above the ground goes against every ounce of self-preservation that evolution has stitched into us. I really do understand that. And it's especially a curious thing because I'm afraid of heights. Yet, there it stayed on my bucket list year after year. I was far more worried that I would die before trying it than while trying it. So when the opportunity to go skydiving cropped up while my partner Emily and I were traveling, I had to go. Now, the first time you skydive, it's a tandem jump, which means that I was strapped to the front of someone who already knew what he was doing. He was in charge of checking the equipment and deploying the parachute, so I didn't have to worry about any of that stuff. I was mainly tasked with two things: putting on an ill-fitting one-piece jumpsuit, goggles, and a leather aviator cap that had me hung up in the air during the bird hand, and of course, going through safety training. For example, as you leave the airplane, you position yourself so that you're flat on your stomach with your arms out, elbows bent, which helps you catch the air and come into equilibrium during freefall. We also went over what to expect when the chute opened and how to do the landing. Now, while I was doing that, Emily got to practice deep breathing. Because if anything did go wrong, she'd be the one on the ground watching. I, on the other hand, was giddy. This thing I dreamt about for decades was finally happening. Now, eventually about a dozen of us loaded into this little Cessna prop plane, and my jump partner and I got in last because we were slated to go first. Now, the motor was loud and the space somewhat crowded, but the view was stunning. Green and golden fields below us, tiny trees off in the distance, mountains and glimpses of ocean further still, and a sunny, bright blue sky crowning it all as the plane climbed up, and up, and up. I have to admit, when someone opened a small window and the wind came rushing in, I started to wonder about my life choices that day. And then when the plane door slid all the way open, and I was right there with nothing in front of me, I did have a moment of, why did I think this was a good idea? But we're first, and it was time to go, and I didn't want to turn back. I waited a long time for this. And so we leaned forward and fell into the air. And it was incredible. I felt profoundly connected to everything. Timeless and weightless and boundless, as though I were a part of the air itself. Like a flat stone sinking slowly through placid water to the riverbed below. The free fall lasted only maybe 15 seconds. But I'd never felt so at home in the world. Now, in order to create that experience of surrender to the air, I had to have profound trust in many things. The professional skydiver I went with, the equipment, the pilot, the physics of terminal velocity. I also had to put time into learning the skills to make it all work. But the gift on the other side was touching mystery. Many musicians have a similar experience. You plug away at scales and refine your technique, You practice the phrases over and over so that they get into your muscle memory. You clarify details with the conductor and the other musicians to shape the piece in a way that feels true to its essence. And then during the performance, you let all of that go and just surrender to the moment-by-moment unfolding of whatever emerges, trusting your instincts and the creativity you invested along the way. Resistance to our creativity is how theologian Henry Nelson Wyman defines sin. Even if we're not trying to resist or we're unaware of our resistance, we might be working against the good. For him, evil is about a lack of responsiveness to the world and an unwillingness to be transformed. So if I'm struggling against the conductor during a concert because I'm so bound by the way we did it in rehearsal, or if I'm falling through the air but refusing to acknowledge that feeling of connectedness, then I'm shutting out the holy. I'm not awake and responsive to the world. A sense of control has its place for sure, but when we hold onto it too tightly, there's a cost. We're usually left with nothing in our grip except unnecessary suffering. Now, the disciplines of playing scales, or preparing to skydive, or engaging in a spiritual practice ultimately aren't about control. They're about weaving together a container of trust that can hold the risks we take. A container we can use in the service of that we can use in service of letting go of control, of surrendering to something larger than ourselves. These disciplines help mystery start to live inside our bodies, the way a skeleton acts as a rigid scaffold for our tender flesh to hang upon. Now, Islam, which means surrender, builds this embodied connection to the divine in its very fabric. Salat, prayers that happen 5 times a day and are one of the 5 pillars of Islam, are not simply words that you think silently to yourself. You also kneel and stand and bow as you're able. Before you start, you perform wudu, the ritual cleansing of the hands, face, and feet. That orientation towards the holy gets into muscle memory. And we can't always know whether surrender will lead to the outcome we hope for. I mean, even though I learned how to land smoothly at the end of a tandem jump, I couldn't make it happen. And we had quite the ungainly return to Earth. If the tumble when first leaving the airplane was expected, this one was not. Thankfully, nothing was bruised but my dignity. But if I'd broken a leg instead of merely looking ridiculous, I wouldn't have been grinning so widely as I made my way back to Emily. I might even have lost touch with that experience during freefall. It isn't always easy to recover when our trust is shaken. But if we're open to practicing the skills that build trust up, we get stronger for the next time. In much the same way that falling down teaches a toddler something about what it takes to walk. At a congregation I once served, every Sunday we'd recognize that we're blessed by those who face their final days with curiosity and courage. And we're blessed by it in part because in observing that process, we also rehearse letting go. We also practice trust and engage our willingness to be transformed and surrender to something larger than ourselves. A basketball coach I once knew said, "Practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes permanent." Just as in sports or music, there's a cumulative effect in our spiritual disciplines as well. So what are we embedding into our lives? Are we digging channels that let creativity flow ever more easily? Or are we becoming entrenched in fixed ways of being? Are we open to being lured by joy? Or does busyness rule the day? Even when surrender doesn't involve jumping out of an airplane, it can feel like we're putting our lives on the line. And I think that's because, in a certain sense, we are. In the day-to-day practice of releasing control in order to experience the joy or peace or courage on the other side of it, we're also learning on a subtle level how to surrender to the inevitability of death. We're getting to touch mystery. And if the analogy between dying and these living moments of surrender holds any truth at all, then it moves me to think that as I leave this plane of existence, I'll enter a space that feels timeless and weightless and boundless, as though I'm part of the air itself. Amen, and blessed be. Friends, surrendering is not the same as giving up. Surrendering is an opening of possibility. It is a way to connect to something that cannot be contained solely in our bodies. It is a way to touch mystery. May that be a gift that you bring with you into the world this week. So let us go forth with courage and with kindness and be a blessing to this broken and beautiful world. Amen, and blessed be.